Welcome to another chapter of The Smiling Ghost. Today I'm going to narrate chapters 19. I hope you enjoy it. A lazy gray blanketed the London sky, and the air carried that damp smell typical of cold mornings. Tomas arrived at school earlier than usual. He was nervous, even though he tried to hide it. He'd slept little, dreamed too much, and now each second seemed to drag by. Anxiety clung to his skin. He walked past the entrance, greeting the receptionist with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He climbed the stairs slowly, almost as if he wanted to postpone the inevitable. Is he going to come talk to me? Has he changed his mind? Was that night really just a mistake, as he seemed to want to believe? The staff room was still half empty when Tomas entered. He tossed his backpack in the corner and went straight to the window. He stood there, watching the courtyard slowly fill with students. He took deep breaths, trying to calm himself, but his heart felt different, restless, impatient. He heard the door open behind him. He didn't need to look. He knew it was him. Tomas. Andrius's voice sounded quieter than usual, almost cautious. Tomas turned slowly. Andrius was there, standing a few steps away, wearing the dark blue coat he always wore on cold days. His hair was neatly combed, his beard neat, his eyes fixed on him with an unreadable expression. For a few seconds, no one said anything. "I have my answer," Andrius began directly. "About the trip." Tomas kept his gaze steady but felt his stomach churn. Andrius took a deep breath, as if he'd just jumped off an invisible cliff. "I'm going." Tomas blinked, not quite understanding at first. "Going?" "Yes. I canceled the weekend with Olivia." He spoke quietly, quickly. "I made some excuse. I said I had school planning meetings, that some students' parents would be coming. Anyway, she didn't question it much." Tomas didn't know what to say. Surprise took over before any words could be said. Andrius continued, trying to maintain control. "I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm doing, really. But I know I can't keep ignoring you, pretending you don't affect me. It's eating me up. And maybe this trip will help us understand." There was something in Andrius's face that Tomas had never seen so clearly. Fear. Not the fear of being discovered or of breaking the rules. It was a more intimate fear. Of losing control. Of feeling again. Tomas gave a small smile, restrained but genuine. "Thank you for not running away." Andrius sighed. "The truth is, I tried. Several times. But you're persistent. I'm persistent. It's different." They exchanged a quick glance, and this time there was less tension. A kind of silent relief. Something was beginning to unravel between them. "Shall we go out Friday afternoon?" Tomas asked, still cautious. "Yes. I drive. I have a reliable car." Andrius lowered his eyes slightly with a half smile. "And I know how to follow maps. I think that's the least I can do, considering everything." "Okay." Tomas took a breath, still absorbing what was happening. "I'll pack my things. The inn I mentioned is small but cozy. It has trail silence. It's enough to think. That's what I need most." Andrius looked at him again, this time with a clearer look in his eyes. "And maybe to listen too. I promise to say little. Just what's necessary. I hope you say enough." Classroom door opened and a group of teachers entered, bringing the usual morning noise. But for Tomas, the world had already changed in that moment. In Andrius's yes, there was more than an answer. There was a new beginning. And maybe the beginning of truth. Tomas arrived home with a tight chest. He threw his jacket on the sofa and collapsed onto the bed, still wearing his shoes. The room felt colder than ever, the silence suffocating him. He wanted to forget the scene at the restaurant, wanted to erase Andrius's coldness from his memory, but his heart insisted on beating faster just remembering his shy smile that morning. He almost fell asleep when he heard a quick knock on the door. His body froze. Who? He stood hesitantly. When he opened it, Andrius was there. His face tense, his eyes filled with an urgency Tomas hadn't seen before. "I'm sorry," Andrius began bluntly. "I was a coward. An idiot." Tomas stood still, unsure whether to let him in. "You hurt me, Andrius." "I know," he replied, his voice low but firm. "I'm just scared. Afraid of what I feel, afraid of what might happen if I don't control this. But I can't. I don't want to control it anymore." The words hung in the air, heavy and sincere. Tomas took a step back, allowing him to enter. The apartment was simple, but at that moment it felt like the most intimate place in the world. Andrius approached, never looking away. "Tomas, I don't know where this will lead us, but I know that if I keep pushing you away, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Tomas's heart raced. His eyes filled with unshed tears, but he smiled slightly. "Then stop running away." That was the cue. Andrius pulled him into a deep kiss, full of everything that had been bottled up for the past few days: fear, desire, affection, anger, and passion. Tomas responded without hesitation. They both surrendered to each other, letting their bodies speak louder than any words. That night was theirs. A night where there was no bride, no school, no secrets. Just two men stripping away their barriers and finding solace in each other. It was intense, tender, and liberating. The next morning, the sun was streaming through the cracks in the window when Tomas woke with Andrius's arms still around him. Unlike the night before, there was no shame in Andrius's eyes when he opened them. There was peace. "Good morning," Tomas whispered. Andrius smiled. "Good morning." They didn't need to say anything else. Their complicity spoke for itself. But reality soon set in. Trip was over, and they had to return to the city, to their routines, to school. The drive back was silent, not out of discomfort, but out of the knowledge that they would need to be discreet. School, Andrius was different. Radiant, lighter, and he couldn't help but exchange knowing glances with Tomas. A discreet smile, a subtle gesture, was enough to make both their hearts race. During class, a student whispered to her classmate, "Have you noticed that Professor Andrius is happier these days?" The other student laughed. "I bet he's in love." Tomas listened, stifled a laugh, and when he looked across the room at Andrius, they exchanged a meaningful look. Andrius raised his eyebrow as if to say, "Don't you dare," and Tomas bit his lip, trying to hide his laughter. It was a dangerous but irresistible game. Beneath the seriousness, the two of them played secretly, like teenagers discovering something for the first time. The outside world might suspect, but inside only they knew how deeply in love they were. The week passed like a silent game between Tomas and Andrius. Stolen glances, discreet smiles, subtle jokes that only they understood. But, over time, that was no longer enough for Tomas. He wanted more. He wanted the Andrius who smiled in the early morning, who held his hand in the darkness, who kissed him without fear. Not that cold teacher who insisted on keeping his distance when people were around. One afternoon, Tomas stayed in the classroom after the last class, waiting for Andrius to put away his books. "Don't you find it tiring?" he asked, crossing his arms. "What?" Andrius looked up, already guessing where Tomas was going with this. "Pretending nothing happened. Pretending we didn't." Tomas sighed. "That we don't exist." Andrius closed his eyes for a moment, as if searching for patience. "Tomas, we have to be careful. I can't risk it." "You can't risk it, or you don't want to?" Tomas replied, his voice breaking. "Because if it's just fear, I understand. But if it's because you'll never give her up, then tell me now." Silence hung heavy in the classroom. Outside, some students laughed in the hallway. Inside, only the tense breathing of the two of them. Andrius looked away. "I'm engaged, Tomas." I can't just throw this away. Then what am I? Tomas's voice cracked. A distraction? A mistake? Andrius didn't answer. He simply arranged the papers on the table, as if that would end the conversation. For Tomas, it was like a door closing. That night, back at his apartment, Tomas slumped in the chair in front of the vanity in his secret room. The reflection in the mirror showed a tired, frustrated face. He opened the drawer, took off his stockings, the short pleated skirt, and the black wig. Transforming himself into Andrius had always been an escape. But that night it was more than that. It was a scream trapped in his chest. He put on each piece carefully, as if assembling armor against pain. He put on the delicate mask that hid his face and turned on the camera. As soon as the live stream began, comments flooded the screen. Andrius is back. I miss you so much. Perfect as always, Red Heart. You're my cure after a bad day. The heart-shaped smiles, the tips pouring in one after the other. It made him forget, even if only for a moment, that Andrius existed. There, Tomas was no longer the insecure, invisible classroom assistant. He was desired, admired, loved. Andrius was fearless. Andrius was free. But when the live stream ended, the silence in the room grew heavy again. He slowly removed his wig, staring at his reflection. Teary eyes no longer belonged to the character. They were his. Why do you do this to me, Andrius? He murmured. In the following days, Tomas withdrew. He responded coldly, avoiding glances as if trying to shield himself. Andrius noticed. In the staff room, while everyone chatted excitedly about a field trip, Andrius watched Tomas from afar, trying to read him. He was different. More determined, more distant. As if he were building a wall between them. Thank you for watching this chapter until the end. Andrius. If you liked it, please comment on what you think of this story. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next chapter. Hugs.